Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 8 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. 27 years before I was born, my grandparents decided to move to America. They were immigrants. They brought with them their 3-year-old daughter, who is my mom. And I remember as a child hearing the stories, hearing the struggles, hearing about the family they lived with that they called sponsors, I think, if I remember right. And I remember hearing that my mom actually had to wait a whole year because she had, I think, rubella. Was that the rubella?
Yes.
Something like that?
Yes.
And one of the big things that immigrants to this country knew is that A, there was a certain protocol how to get in here. B, that you couldn't come in here if you had things wrong that could be contagious, like diseases, like maybe rubella might have been one of them. Now, and so I say that so that you don't think that I'm anti-immigration. I obviously am the product of immigration, and I'm guessing most of us are at some point in time or not. But now we don't just fear diseases; we actually fear things that are much worse, like terrorism and even lower wages. We fear that we're going to be inundated with people willing to work for $2 an hour, and the rest of us are going to say, "Gee, what do I do now?" Because you can't live on $2 an hour,
Right.
So there's a lot of pressure on our legislators to give this some real serious thought. Our southwestern border being the biggest, most prime area of this country. Senator Marco Rubio, in a news article released today, says that unilateral action by President Obama on immigration, which is expected this fall, his unilateral action, Senator Rubio says that will doom future chances for reform by poisoning the well in Congress. That's the words of the Huffington Post. Leslie Holman is on the phone. She's an attorney. She's the president of the American Immigration Lawyers Association, and she's the founder of Holman Immigration Law. So she knows a lot more about this than I'll ever know. She's going to talk about the ongoing crisis at the U.S. border. So let's let her talk. Good morning, Leslie Holman. Good morning, Leslie.
Good morning, Larry. Nice to meet you.
You too. Where are you right now?
I am actually in Boston. I live in Vermont, so a little bit further north, but I'm in Boston at the moment.
Yeah. So how do we handle the immigration problem without seeming like we're cold-hearted and hypocritical, because most of us have immigrants in our background?
Sure, and I was listening to your story, and I too, my mother came around the same age as I think your mother did. But it's very important to remember that we're not talking about, if you will, undocumented, quote, illegal immigration. In this particular crisis, we are talking about people who are asking the government to follow what we have in place to help them.
Well, that's good.
It is good.
Okay, so I thought we were going to talk about something different.
Yes.
Okay, well that makes a lot of sense. So, okay, take us down that road a little farther. Explain.
Sure. What you have here on this particular, and this is a crisis, is you have people fleeing danger, just as, your relatives or my relatives might have done, and they're coming to our borders and they're saying, we're in trouble. Help us. And that's something that we've had in place, and it's been our commitment as a country to do since we were founded.
Okay, so let me tell you what I face. This is what I face, because as a person who wants to be compassionate, I sometimes get ridiculed for that when it comes to this. And here's the exact, I can use an exact example if you don't mind me doing this. One of our regular call-ins is a local Congressman Richard Nugent. And he actually made news from something he said on this show regarding the immigrants. And here's where I think he didn't agree with me. And maybe I just learned from him. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know enough about it. But in the news, we heard that there were children. We heard that these children were coming from Honduras, that the conditions were so bad that the parents thought this was the best thing to do for them, to send them to family members already living in the United States. When I heard that, I thought, well, you can't send them back. We got to do something to help. Oh, yeah, my listeners didn't like that at all. Larry, you're turning your back on us. I said, no, I'm not. I don't want bad people coming in either, but these sound like their children. They said, okay, so here's what Congressman Nugent said, and I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. He said, okay, there's 50,000 people. 1,000 of them could be gang members. He got chastised for that by the press. Okay. But is that unrealistic to think that out of 50,000, there could be 1,000 that were actually here under false pretenses? Like they learned, like the news said, they learned how to speak Spanish. They learned how to pretend they were Hispanic, but the truth is that they're terrorists. What is your thought on that?
My thought on that is, the interviews of the people who are at the border, the women and children, are showing that this is not true. That's a figure.
Well, do we have enough resources to take them one at a time and just say, okay, we believe you? I mean, that's what they did in my mom's case. Every one person at a time had to pass the test.
Exactly why, and we do have the resources, and but more importantly, we have the laws that require that we do this, and this is why we have backlogs, because people are given that chance.
Okay. So, wow, you took us down a different road than I thought you would, but I'm glad you are. No, that's okay. I didn't know if we were going to be arguing about something or agreeing with something, but it sounds like, is it possible to both be right? In other words, Congressman Nugent perhaps has a really good point we need to pay attention to, but so do I?
Well, the real truth is that we have the procedures in place to dispel the fears of Congressman Nugent. And in fact, those procedures are showing what he said is not true.
None of them. There's absolutely no terrorists in the bunch.
No, not that there are not some. Of course, always you may, but the system catches them. That's why
That's what I'm hoping. Just like the system caught the person with rubella or with some kind of contagious disease.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, and you represent them? Is this part? I mean, how do you? Gosh, you must be doing it all pro bono. These people don't have any money.
You bet. We have the American Immigration Lawyers Association is made up of 13,500 caring individuals. And we have seen something I have never seen before, is people are going down there on shifts night and day, 24/7, paying out of their own pocket. They're paying for their meals, they're paying for their transportation, they're providing these services for free because they care. Because the laws require this, and it's who we are.
And they. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and they believe in due process, because what they are there to guarantee that the people who are there, the women and children, get the fairness that our laws dictate they are entitled to.
So do all these refugees that are coming in over the borders from all the different countries, are they coming in with names of relatives and where these relatives are living, and if those relatives are legal now also? Is that how you're placing them?
Well, we would like to. Trying is the operative word, because typically in a situation like this, they would be entitled to bond and they would be released to the people who could then pay for them and care for them. But unfortunately, they're not being released because bond is being denied or put in, figures that are just not possibly achievable.
You know what's weird, and this is kind of an aside type of a story, type of an element to this, is that this morning there was a story about this American who decided to join ISIS, who was killed while fighting for them. As an American, he left here to go there to be a bad guy. And I'm guessing that he, because he is an American, would have no problem coming back to be a bad guy, right? I mean, I think that would be more of a terror threat than somebody who would have to prove that he was Hispanic.
That's a very good point that you bring up, because when we look at those people, and we look at, obviously safety is an important issue for everyone, but you never know what's in someone's heart, and we have problems within our own country with our own citizens.
Yeah, I always remember
penalize everyone because of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Timothy McVeigh comes to mind all the time. Leslie, I am so surprised and I'm refreshingly surprised by the conversation and by you. Can I ask you to hang on while we do our commercial break?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Because I want to come back. We've got the weather and a couple of commercials, and we'll be right back. Leslie Holman on the phone. She's an attorney, and she's the president of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. We're talking about what the Obama administration is doing to fix America's broken immigration system. We'll find out exactly what's broken about it in just a bit. This is The Source, WOCA.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Partly sunny today, a shower or thunderstorm around mainly this afternoon. High 87 to 92. Watch for rough surf and rip currents. Clear tonight, low 68 to 75. Clouds and sunshine tomorrow with a thunderstorm later in the day, high 90 to 94. Friday, clouds and sunshine with a shower or thunderstorm in the afternoon, high 91 to 94. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Steve Travis.
Are you a mom looking for inspiration? Are you creative? Mamazine.com is a lifestyle blog designed for the local mom to be inspired by the beauty of motherhood while staying current on local events and issues. Visit Mamazine.com today to find events around town, recipes, imaginative play ideas, and more. Mamazine.com.
Hey Ocala, this is Kelly Hart, Executive Editor of Ocala Magazine. Did you know last year Ocala Magazine won more awards in excellence than any other publication in Florida? And this year, Ocala Magazine was named Best Consumer Magazine in the state. Now you can join me every Friday at 10 a.m. on Ocala Magazine Radio, where we bring the pages of Ocala Magazine to life, right here on The Source. Ocala Magazine thanks you for making us number one. And remember, there is only one Ocala Magazine.
Legally Yours, brought to you by Fuller & Fuller Attorneys at Law. On the air every Wednesday morning at 10:30 a.m. with John Fuller, a board-certified civil trial lawyer for over 25 years. John welcomes your questions, from business to complex family matters to legal disputes. So tune in every Wednesday morning at 10:30 a.m. for Legally Yours with John Fuller, right here on WOCA 1370 a.m. and 96.3 FM, The Source.
Gene Powell Pasture Mowing. Our tractor services include bush hog, disking, front end loader, box blade, and stump grinding. We also have zero-turn mowers for the smaller paddocks, aisleways, fence rows, and lawn care. Fence row spraying is also available for weed control. We are licensed and insured. Gene Powell Pasture Mowing, 352-629-2440, or online at powellgene, Gene, @yahoo.com. Gene Powell Pasture Mowing.
You've got a garden and we've got a show for you called You've Got a Garden with your host, Master Gardener Carol Ann Baldwin. Carol Ann answers your questions about your flowers, your veggies, your grass, your trees, even questions about your bugs. And she's only on WOCA, so don't miss Carol Ann Baldwin and You've Got a Garden each Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on WOCA The Source.
Your official news source, WOCA.
All right, 22 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Leslie Holman is on the phone. We're talking about immigration, specifically the immigration story that's every day in the news regarding the Southwest Mexican what am I trying to say, border. And Leslie, can I do something with you? Good morning, Leslie. Again, good morning, Leslie.
Good morning again.
Can I do something with you? I looked real quickly to find this. I wrote a poem some time ago. I want to share it with you. Can you want to hear my poem?
I absolutely would love it.
I've never had a chance to read this on the air before. Are you ready?
You bet.
I launder my clothes in a laundromat on Saturday mornings, and I've noticed that Mexican workers will frequent the place. They're young, but the sun seems to have leathered their face. Are these the illegals I've heard so much about? Political pawns, let them in, kick them out? But none of that talk is on the TV in here. Turned to an all-Spanish channel with a girl in a brassiere. I'm not making this up. It's a sight to behold. Like a laundromat peep show, and it's all Espanol. All the men round the TV are like feeding time hounds, stretching their necks, pushing each other down. She points to a rain cloud, then shows traffic's a mess. But what she is saying, they couldn't care less. They are working for pennies. There's such strife in the world. But the great pacifier of these men is the Spanish weather girl. Sorry, I had to read
Was that during the dry cycle or the rinse?
You know, I thought of this. Here's why I thought of this. Because I used to look at these people. They had children with them. And this is maybe where my compassion for them came from that my listeners didn't like. And I'm not saying all of them, but it just seems to me that I was washing my clothing with these people. I would bring my dog. The little children loved my dog. I learned how to, at the same time, say beautiful dog and beautiful fart because the word for dog and fart sounds very similar in Spanish.
Yes, it does.
I know pedo. I don't know the other word. I'm afraid to ask.
That's the
No,
word,
I think you might have said fart.
Yeah,
I think you might have said fart right there because that's what I used to do. You got to really roll that R to make it a dog. If you just do one little pedo like that, oh, that's a fart. Perro, I think, is dog.
I'll remember. I'm going to remember that.
Somebody Spanish, please call in and help us out with this one. But anyway, so I used to watch them, and I fell in love with them, so to speak. And I thought, wow, these are sweet people. Why are these people political pawns? I didn't quite understand it, and this was years ago. I mean, I've had a washing machine for a while now. But I remember thinking, why are these people the pawns? They're getting paid probably very little, and obviously they hadn't learned the language, at least not around me. They like that Spanish weather girl, though. But
she's cute.
Okay, but on a serious note, I listened to what some of the people who want to put a big wall up on the border, and I'm not opposed to that either necessarily. I mean, if that's a solution to a problem, all these drugs coming across and guns, I mean, isn't that an issue we need to be concerned about?
That's not the solution. That may be an issue, but putting up a wall is not the solution.
Because
we know, number one, that we have this year, or actually under the current administration, I should say, increased our border security. I'm not sure about the figure, but we know, number one, that doesn't change certain things. That's not going to deter people, especially, and if you're talking about the border crisis here, that's not going to deter people who are literally coming here because they need safety.
So these are the people, difference. And so we're referring to the people who truly are answering the call that is emblazoned upon the Statue of Liberty. Bring us your poor huddle, right?
You bet. And as proof of that, Larry, because they've been, getting them out quickly, which has been what the administration has asked. We learned that last week 6 of the children who were returned to Honduras were murdered.
Oh, see, that's the kind of stuff I didn't want to hear. I don't know if you like Glenn Beck or not, if you disagree with his politics or not, but he's very much in favor of helping out those. And he's one of the hosts on this radio station. We're an affiliate of his.
Yeah, we hear that the children that are allowed to remain in this country, the people that are coming over here, and that they're here, that they go to different communities to live now. Are any of the pro bono lawyers that are giving their expertise to help them? Do they welcome them into their own communities?
That's an interesting question. I think anybody, or at least what I've heard, is people would gladly welcome them. I hear from our lawyers who are there, and they make comments. I'm looking into their eyes. The biggest problem is they're not being let out. They're not being bonded out. Mm-hmm. They can't take them, and they're not given that chance.
I guess I should ask a legal question because we're almost out of time. Will the changes that President Obama is proposing do something legally that will change how you do your job?
That's possibly. The problem is I don't know what those changes are.
Wow.
And we haven't heard. I would hope, possibly. But I need to know what they are. I need to hear them.
And what I've always wondered about here in Florida, you can go down to Key West, and if there's a guy in a boat who just somehow made it that far, and he's in the water, he's apprehended. If he puts his feet on the beach, he's free. He's here. Mm-hmm. I've never understood that. I mean, gosh, you made it that far. You're 20 feet out in the water. Boom.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't kill him, but I mean, they get him.
And probably partially because at some point there are boundaries. There has to, someone makes an imaginary line in the sand or on the water, if you will. But there've always been, or there have been, special things in place for, I think you're talking about the Cubans, and that's a different situation. But one would hope that when the children and women put their feet on the ground here, that they'd be given those same protections.
And that's what I was thinking, but I was also thinking of just bear with me just for a second, if there were terrorists who wanted to come here, they could take the Key West route. They could drop them off in a boat a mile out, row in just for a mile. They don't have to come 90 miles from Cuba.
Yeah.
And pretend they came 90 miles from Cuba. I mean, they could do it that way.
Again, one of the things that, our border enforcement is they're trained. They're trained. They're gonna look at this. They know what to look for. So I think that's just not going to happen.
Well, you sound like a very compassionate lady, Leslie. Do you want to? We have like 40 seconds. Do you want to give us a website we can go to?
You bet. www.aila.org. It's the American Immigration Lawyers, and we're all compassionate and we're dedicated.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the air with us. If you're ever in Ocala, you're familiar with Ocala, I heard, yes?
I am. As a matter of fact, I have been up there several times. Horse country is beautiful. I'd love to meet you.
Leslie, you sound delightful. Thank you so much for being on with us today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll take a little break. We'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Karen McHugh. Peter Theo Curtis, an American held captive by an al-Qaeda offshoot in Syria for nearly 2 years, is free and is grateful to be back home in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
I suddenly remember how good the American people are and what kindness they have in their hearts. And to all those people, I say a huge thank you from my heart. From the bottom of my heart.
Curtis speaking just moments ago. The governor of Louisiana is taking the feds to court over Common Core.
Republican Governor Bobby Jindal argues the federal Department of Education is coercing states to adopt Common Core. The lawsuit filed this morning says the more than $4 billion grant program forces states down a path toward a national curriculum in violation of state sovereignty.
Fox News Radio's Jared Halpern reports that Russian troops have crossed into a town in southeastern Ukraine following days of heavy shelling. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Napa know-how.
5 quarts of Valvoline conventional oil and a Napa silver filter for just $22 is a no-brainer. So now you're free to think about other things. Like, aren't zebras really just horses with cool tattoos? With 5 quarts of Valvoline and a Napa silver filter for just $22, it's definitely something to think about. Conquer the job with Napa know-how. General states pricing. Sales prices do not include applicable state, local taxes, or recycling fees at participating Napa Auto Parts stores. Offer expires 8/31/14.
Where in the world does your family's story begin? Find out for free this Labor Day weekend. Go to tryancestry.com to get free access to more than 1 billion newly released records from 67 countries, but only for a limited time. Anytime this Wednesday through Monday only. Search birth, marriage, migration, and death records from all over the world. Don't miss this opportunity to search absolutely free. Visit tryancestry.com. That's tryancestry.com.
On this episode of What Not to Do, brought to you by
Mike's Got Plumbing. If water runs through it, we do it.
Okay, easy. All right, set her down. Over there. Easy.
What are you doing?
Oh, honey, you're home early. Nothing.
Really? Because it looks to me like you've torn up the entire yard with this giant tractor.
Not all of it. There is a small section over there I didn't
That's
get.
not even funny. Why are you tearing up my yard?
Well, the sprinkler head broke.
So you thought it was a good idea to fix it with a huge tractor?
Well, not at first, but then when I tried to fix it, I hit the main line. Thought it would be a good idea if...
all of this was a good idea? Here's an idea. Why don't you just call Mike's Got Plumbing? It's that easy. In fact, let me help you out with that. 237-2888.
But it's the weekend.
I know. They don't charge extra for nights, weekends, or holidays. Remember the commercials? If water runs through it, they do it. And they're already on their way. So get this monstrosity out of my yard.
On next week's episode of What Not to Do.
A crane? Really?
Say, have you seen this week's ad for Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens? If not, here's a small sample of the outstanding savings. A special selection of your favorite late summer blooming flowers and plants priced from $2 to $10. To name a few, there's lantana, Mexican petunia, daylilies, Laura petalum, Indian hawthorn, gardenia, and even some smaller trees ready for planting like weeping willow, red maple, golden rain tree, and many, many more. These are guaranteed values up to $29.99, priced at just $2 to $10. Lots of BOGOs too, and don't forget that tree sale still going on. Big trees up to 6 feet, starting at just $29.99. Shop early for the best deals. They're open 9 to 2 Monday through Saturday, so don't miss this absolutely late summer sale at Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens, Southeast 38th Street, Ocala. Growing greener with Ocala.